Have you ever taught students in class and you were teaching, they were engaging, you were so happy, and you were like, oh, these students really understand this lesson. And then you give them a test and all of them fails it, or they don't even get up to half mark. And you're wondering, is not this lesson that everybody was happy about? And we're all learning and we're all happy. You're not alone. It has happened to almost all of us as teachers. So if you're a teacher and you've experienced that, just know that one of the biggest challenges we experience or we face is knowing whether what we have taught the student has understood it, or if learning has actually taken place. Because when we say a child has learned, that means a child should be able to give back what you have given to them, right? And get their answers correctly. So it's a challenge. Don't worry, in this video today, we are going to be talking about how we can create formative tests, or how we can create assessments that can help our students retain what has been taught. Okay. And if this is your first time here, please click on the like, subscribe, and share button. My name is Miss Blessing, and this is I Teach with Miss B. What do? I help teachers thrive and grow. I teach you how to teach online so you can have the best results as an online tutor. Okay. So let's go or dive right into the video. So let's start with this. What is an assessment? You know, we always give assessment, and whenever we hear assessment, the first thing that comes to people's mind is tests, whatever, maybe tests or exam and all of that. No, assessment is actually knowing what the child has learned, gathering information based on what you have taught to know if the child has actually learned or not. Okay. Assessment helps us to answer three major things: what the child already know, what the child has learned, and what does the child need help with. These are the three major things that assessment helps us to know. So if you're a teacher and you are thinking assessment is just giving them a test or an exam, so effective teachers do not wait till the end of the term to know if the child has learned or not. They check in the middle as they're teaching, as the class progresses, they check in between. And I'm going to be teaching you 5 techniques today that you're going to use to check if your student is actually learning or not. Okay, so the first technique is exit ticket. What do I mean by ticket? Exit ticket could just be like maybe a question or two you ask your student at the end of the class. You want to know what they've been able to learn. So at the end of every lesson, I always ask, what did you learn today? If you have done my training before, you always see me ask that question. That is just to reinforce what persuasive technique, what new word did you learn today? What persuasive technique did you learn today? What topic did you learn today? Can you explain this? Can you explain that? Their ability to retell you what they have learned that day shows that they have learned something. If it's a comprehension passage you did for that day, ask, what did we learn today? What new word did you learn from the comprehension passage? Always ask questions at the end of the class before they go. Even if it's 1 minute, 2 minutes, that exit, because sometimes that exit ticket tells you that this is what the child was able to pick. Okay. And when the parents ask them, what did you learn today? That thing that they answered you at the exit ticket is the first thing they'll also answer to their parents, right? Because those are the things that have stayed or stuck to their brain. So exit ticket, very, very important. That's the first one. The second technique is using your whiteboard, or how will I put it, or response card. Yes, using your whiteboard. What do I mean by whiteboard? One thing I usually do sometimes is towards the end of the class, or when I'm done with a particular, before they go into their OneNote to actually do the activity, I will tell them, I'll open either I open a whiteboard, and then I tell them, write 2 things or 3 things you got from the lesson while I was teaching, and you see them, they'll actually write. I love the coordinated chaos, as I'm going to call it. Sometimes I'll tell them, take the sticky from the whiteboard, Zoom whiteboard, take the sticky note, choose a color, and write 2 or 3 things that you were able to get from the lesson today. And then you see them begin to get it. Because sometimes if you ask, do you understand? They'll tell you yes, even when they don't. Okay. So it is important that you get them to write. It's either you use the sticky or the whiteboard, or you use the chart. You could tell them, okay, everyone use the chart, write the 5 types of pronouns we learned today, or write at least 3. Let them give you the 3 and examples. You know that, okay, you've been able to teach, and everyone, ensure that everyone answers. If it's a group class, ensure that everyone answers. If it's individual class, ensure that the students actually answers the question. That shows that you have actually taught, or the students have learned something from you that day. Okay. The third technique I have is what we call think, pair, and share. Okay, what do I mean by think, pair, and share? You give them a task and ask them to think about it. They should write down their idea, okay, or pair with someone. If it is an individual class, the child could just write down the idea and then tell them to voice it out, not just write it out. Now after writing, they should be able to voice it out, like tell you, oh, this is what I think about this. Okay, so that helps communication. That also helps to retain their memory. There's one thing I always say: whenever you're teaching, relate whatever you're doing to real life experiences, to their real life experience. When you relate it to their real life experience, let them think about something that has happened to them in that light before. For instance, if you're teaching a math question or you're teaching fractions, let's say you're teaching fraction, have you shared something with someone before? What did you share? Okay, when you shared it, what happened? These are the things that helps them to organize themselves. It helps them to think. It helps them to relate with real life issues, because whenever you teach and the child cannot take what you have taught into a real life experience, then that means you have not taught. Or the child cannot connect what you're teaching to a real life experience, that means you have not taught. That's the truth. And it will not stick because they will easily forget it. But whenever you do the think, pair, and share method, it helps them to retain, because they relate what has happened to a real life experience, or they relate what you have taught them with you, like communicate it with you, and so it actually stays in their mind. All right, so always do this method is one method that works, because you can also converse with them. They listen to you carefully because they know that if they don't listen, they're going to miss out. Okay, so this technique actually works as well. Let's go to the fourth one. The fourth technique is called self-assessment. Okay, the when it comes to self-assessment, some students struggle with some questions. So self-assessment, usually I do it like after the end of the class. I ask them, what part of the lesson was hard for you today? What did you have challenges with? At what point did you struggle while I was teaching? Okay, so it also helps me as a teacher to reflect on myself. It helps me to also know where the part that the child struggled with. Recently, I was teaching a child verbal reasoning, and we're doing number sequences, and we did the skip method. And because there were two methods, we did the skip method, and then we did the sequence method. She was able to get or relate very well with the sequence method, but struggled a bit with this skip method for a while until she was able to get it. So at the end of the class, I asked her, what part of the lesson was hard for you? She was like, she struggled a bit trying to know how to skip to get to her answer and all of that. So these are the things that if you don't ask if you don't ask this question, you will not know the point the child begins to get confident. You will not know the point the child begins to understand the things that you have actually taught. So it is very important as a teacher to do self-assessment. It builds confidence, okay? At least the child can tell you, I can confidently do this now. That's your joy as a teacher. The fact that you know that your student can confidently do a particular thing, it gives you joy as a teacher, okay? Now, another fun thing I do when I do self-assessment is sometimes I tell them, use the thumbs up. Use the thumb up if you understand. Use the thumb down if you don't understand. Use side thumbs if it's confusing. So sometimes the emojis on my Zoom, I'll tell them to use the emoji. You could use the emoji, tell me if you actually understand it or not. And you see them, they actually use it because it's fun for them, and you are also able to understand, okay, this person does not understand this, or you're also able to know when someone understands, or when the child understands and when the child does not. Okay, or when the child finds it what's it called, confusing. Okay, so it is more like thinking. The child is actually thinking about their thoughts. They are reflecting. Did I do well today? Was I able to understand this? Where did I struggle with? So all of these things are things that you need to take note of as a teacher. If you've watched to this point, please click on the like, subscribe, and share button. Let's go to the fifth one and the last one. Okay, now the fifth one is targeted questioning. One problem teachers have is you guys only ask questions for retrieval. What do I mean by retrieval? What is a noun? You ask the student, what is a noun? And they can just tell you that one. They only test recall, or you are only testing their recall, their ability to recall. No, sometimes you want them to think. That is where learning takes place. When the child can think, you ask them questions like, why do you think the author used this? Why do you think the writer used this particular language? Why did he think like this? What do you think is going to happen next? These are when you use questions that provokes their thoughts, they will not forget what you have taught them. That's the truth. Okay. Sometimes give them the answer. If you're doing a math problem, right? Give them the question, give them the answer, and tell them, someone says this is the answer. Is the person correct? Can you show me the process to getting this thing right? Okay, if it is not correct, what is the correct one? Can you solve it for me? You are not just doing it, they are doing it and explaining it to you. Okay, so again, you could ask questions like, what evidence in this text supports your answer? Is it did he act right? The child will tell you no. Why do you say no? What part of the text tells you that he misbehaved? Okay, so these are the things that I would want you to do. Don't always ask them questions. Let them think. Let them think. When you think, this ensures that they understand what you have taught them. Okay, always use strategies that involves everyone. Now let's look at some common mistake we make as teachers when we are doing assessment. And it is very important I talk about this so that you know where you're making mistake and how to cover or how to make up for your mistake. Number one is assessing too late. Don't wait till the end of the lesson before you know whether the child understood or not. Don't wait till the child is doing their independent tasks before you know if the child is doing their lesson right or not. No, yeah, as you're teaching, you are assessing. As you're teaching, you are assessing. Don't wait till the end. So number two is relying on one assessment method. Don't rely on only just one assessment method. Use varied assessment method and it's going to help you. I listed five in this video. If you use the five of them, trust me, there's no how your class is not going to be engaging. And then number three is collecting data and not using it. Finding out that the child does not understand and then you don't go ahead to explain better or explain further doesn't make sense to me, right? Because as you are taking the data, oh, this child does not, it's either you're going back or you are reinforcing the learning using something that can make the child easily understand, because children learn in different ways. There are different methods we use to teach children, right? Some of them video, some of them audio, some of them pictures. So you have to find a method that works. Don't just say, okay, because we're supposed to have passed this topic, we're not going to talk about it again. Please don't do that. So collect the data and actually use it. It also helps to improve their learning as well. So let's recap the assessment techniques that we talked about. We talked about exit tickets as the first one. We talked about using your whiteboards or using your response cards or maybe using your OneNotes, depending on what you want to use. Then we talked about think, pair, and share. And then we talked about your self-assessment and targeted questioning. These tips are very, very important when you are doing your lessons or when you're planning your lessons. I'm sure that you have been able to learn something today. Please, I have videos, tons of videos that you could watch that can help you as an online tutor. If you're new to the online tutoring space or you're a physical classroom teacher, you're new, you don't know where to start from, start with watching how to use your Google tools or your how to use Zoom, Google Meet, your teaching tools, OneNote, and the rest of them. That's where you actually have to start from. And again, I have a book, The Online Teaching Blueprint. Please go ahead and watch. Please join my WhatsApp channel. The link is going to be in the description of this video. My membership link is also going to be in the description of, and do well to please like, follow me, share this video with other teachers. Until I see you again in my next video. Bye for now.